That's a good answer. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to A Caring Nation. Did we forget? This is another segment, and we are actually filming this on May the 6th, 2007. We're out in the park, and people are enjoying the wonderful weather. So a few dogs may jump up on the table. We may have some special guests in Frick Park by the Frick Museum, which is in Point Breeze. Am I right, Mr. Albert?
Right.
All right. This is my dad, Mr. Albert Goldsmith. And I jokingly call him Mr. Albert. It's kind of an inside joke. But anyway, I'm going to get right to the point, Al. I just did a big fussing about the gasoline, the fuel prices. Now, my contention is that if Americans would unite together and millions of us would decide to boycott at least one day a week, boycott getting any gas, just stop getting gasoline, and if we can get millions to rotate and start thinking in a different way, that we would be able to get the reduction of fuel costs. Now my question to you is, Al, I believe that is possible if we can get the masses excited. But my question to you is, does Americans have the right to protest, in your opinion? And is it right or wrong to fight to have a reasonable price for fuel?
It's right to protest. It's right to have a reasonable price.
Do you think that we will see $4, $5, and even $6 prices of fuel if we do not, per gallon, if we do not start to protest on a nationwide, national basis? Or do you think that it will stop at $4?
Probably stop at $4.
How long do you think it would take before it goes to $4?
A couple years.
You think that long?
Yes.
Okay, now let's say it gets to $4 by 2009. Do you see it going higher? Or do you see it staying there?
Possibly staying there.
Okay. And what could Americans do outside of protesting, outside of doing that, not doing that? What's another way we can fight to not have the fuel continue to go up, and so that they don't go to $4? What could we do to prevent this?
Try to work through federal legislation limiting the high price.
How might that work? Could you give us an example?
Legislators could be encouraged to set limits.
Okay. Now, if they set a limit on the cost of oil and thus the cost of gasoline and fossil fuels for people with vehicles and homes, wouldn't that be an infringement on people's right, being that we're in a capitalistic society? Would it be an infringement, or is it something else?
It is not an infringement. It's a natural form of economic scarcity and oversupply.
So, what do you think some of the factors in the oil and gasoline prices being so high, what do you think the real reason behind the cost may be?
The companies are interested in making profits.
So do you think when they tell us it's because of extra demand and this refinery is not working and so on and so forth, do you think that that's accurate and that they're being forthcoming? Or do you think it's just that they are finding ways to increase their profit per gallon?
Both are true. I think they're having difficulties, but they're also increasing their profit.
So, do you think maybe they've increased their profit tenfold?
Perhaps.
Okay.
And may do so more.
Now, if you were a leader in D.C., you spoke a few minutes ago about getting legislation. how might you go about doing that if you wanted to draft a bill and then you wanted to get your fellow senators or Congress people to support it and then vote on it? What would you personally do to try to encourage others to support the bill?
Seek first the Department of Commerce and see what the status is, then set up committees and employ legislators who are representing the states which have high production of gasoline, oil, to be on committees and see if things can be reduced.
Okay, and at what point do you think the American people have to say to their legislators, if you don't change it, we will? What point do we have to legally and peacefully demand change? At what point?
All along. We have to begin now, if not already.
Okay. So, let me see if I understand what you're saying. You just said you believe that gas within a year or two may go up to $4. So the question now is, I have to ask you, can the American public prevent it from going to $4?
Only through legislation.
What
Federal
about
help.
Okay. What about through protesting? Would that help?
That would help a little, but I don't think a mass boycott of gasoline will work.
If it was a mass boycott, why wouldn't it work?
It wouldn't be sufficient. There are enough people who don't care.
Okay. But if we're looking at 10 million people protesting on a regular basis, do you still believe that is not enough people?
It would make a small dent, but I think that not a major block.
But if 10 million people were protesting, do you believe our legislators would take notice?
Yes.
Do you think that would cause them to act or react?
They would react.
And in what way? Positive or negative?
Well, they would reduce the limits. They would say that there can be no gasoline at a higher price than such.
Okay. Now, there is talk about a windfall tax on the profits of the oil companies. So a windfall tax on the oil companies. Would you be in favor of the windfall tax or opposed? And if so, can you explain your position, whichever it is?
I would have to know more about what the windfall would be, how it would work,
Okay.
where its source would be.
And would you encourage people to become more active in learning the answers to those
Yes.
questions? All right.
The
Well,
more
now,
people know, the better.
can you repeat that?
The more people know, the better.
Now, let me ask you, you were active in politics for a long time, or what's going on? How can the average person who may have literacy problems keep up to date with what is going on with their local, county, state, and federal legislators?
Most of the time would be through television and elections.
Well, what if the media is not doing a very good job currently at keeping the public informed? What other way do you believe there may be for people to be informed?
Committees, pamphlets, speakers.
And would you encourage everyone to try that?
Yes.